What is the overall point of a close relationship? Have you ever thought about that? There is a point, a specific reason why we gravitate towards having a close, lasting relationship. And I'm going to talk about that today. And I'm going to give you the map of your relationship. I'm going to give you an idea, your primary romantic long-term relationship, if you have one. And if you don't have one, it'll give you the map for when and if you do have one. Because there's a specific purpose that all of us need and get from having those. And I'm going to go through that in detail. And I'm also going to show you the map of when it will not work any longer and why, and what kinds of things will keep it constantly growing to keep getting better and better. A lot of people, so many people have not been able to master this, and for so many reasons. And this will all be illuminated. If you're in a relationship, this episode will help you see it from a whole new dimension. And if you're not in a relationship yet and you want to be, or for your future, you will now have wisdom that will make you work that relationship to your favor and your partner's favor and keep it growing and lasting and continuing to satisfy you both. All right, so I'm going to start off right away with what is the one reason that we want to be in relationships or are in relationships. The one reason is it keeps us growing. We did not come here and take up human bodies to stagnate. We came here to grow and become and remember what we are. And we don't do that very well alone. And there's a reason why the relationship does it. It gives us two things that we need. One is safety, and the other is challenge. Now, we need enough safety to challenge ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And then we need challenge so we don't stagnate. So a positive, wonderful, loving relationship has both of those things in it. So if you've thought of relationships in a different way, now this is going to be a paradigm shift, which you need to have, because a relationship needs safety and challenge so that you keep growing. Now, I've mentioned before that before the relationship, your primary relationship has to be with yourself. And if it's not, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, doesn't mean you won't get a relationship. It means it'll be wonky. It'll be wobbly. It'll be messy. So that's okay. You can learn either way. You don't have to wait until you're all cleaned out in there before you go into a relationship. We all go into them as we are, imperfect, and that's fine. No problem there. But if your relationship with yourself isn't solid, there are going to be rifts and challenges and bumps and bruises along the way in your relationship. And it's not because you're not right for each other. It might be, but it's most likely because there's work to do inside of you individually. So first of all, this is a point that is in every podcast episode. It's at the heart of everything I teach. Your relationship with yourself is primary. And just as a reminder, we are all here to strengthen, heal, and expand what we are inside. We're here to get good with ourselves, all of our parts on the inside. So if you're in a relationship with somebody else, know that you are doing that first and foremost, and the relationship with your partner is helping you do that because it gives you enough safety to know that they're there with me. And so they provide me some security and someone I can be a little vulnerable with so that I have the courage to look inside and go, you know what? Why am I like this? I have this tendency to be so judgmental, and then talk with your partner about it, who loves you, is trying their best to love you, and hold the space for you to examine it with them so you feel the safety to allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to look at your parts. But if you're not doing that, if you're not willing to look inside of yourself, that relationship won't work. It has a shelf life. Because the whole point of having a relationship is for you to grow on the inside and for that partner to grow on the inside. So I want to reiterate that point. If you are in a relationship and you think too much about your partner, too much about do they still love you, that is not a them problem. That is a you problem. And there's nothing wrong with you. It just means you need healing. You need love. You need help to accept yourself more in every single way for every single feeling you have. And if your focus is too much on your partner, that means there's something in there that has an emptiness, that's too just hungry because something feels empty inside. This happens to so many people. Don't judge yourself for it. All of us have some level of emptiness until we really do some work. But just know that's what needs your attention. And you don't have to leave your partner to go figure it out, but you need to know that's your primary place to do some work. Okay? So now I've talked about the safety, which gives you the vulnerability to examine the things in you that need a little examination and things like that. How about the challenge? Well, the second part of the relationship that's so good for us is that it challenges us, because if we get stagnant, if we get complacent, if we get kind of lazy, that has a shelf life too. And even if your partner is right on board with you and you feel so comfortable that you just don't want to do anything but hang out and watch movies with your partner, that you can do it. You cannot grow together for a time, but life is so intelligent that it's going to start to bother one of you over time. One of you is going to start to get bored and realize, wait a second, we're not really thriving, and want to grow. And that is going to challenge you if you're not the one who wants to grow. That's going to challenge the other partner to realize, yeah, you're right. I'm smoking too much pot. I am eating too much food. I'm sitting on the couch too much. And that partnership helps you then grow out of it. So the safety and the challenge are what help you grow, but also know a relationship is two individual souls on their own journeys, growing in the ways they want to, first and foremost. And the partnership helps that keep happening if it's working. Okay. Now let's talk about when it doesn't work. Let's say one partner is really growing and the other is stagnating. Some people really don't want to do inner work. They want to focus on the outside. They want to just keep focusing on the things they do and trying to make everything better in the world on the outside. They don't want to look inside. A partner like that is stagnant because it is an inner journey for all of us at some point. And if you, their partner, are aware of that, that's going to get frustrating for you because they're tethering you and pulling you down. You can't talk about deep, interesting internal things with someone who won't go there. So now there's this rift. Okay. Here's part of the map. That will not continue to work. However, there's a beautiful intelligence to the whole thing, because when it stops working for the partner who wants to grow, then there comes a point where they can no longer do it this way and they're looking at leaving. They just can't do it the same way. And when that partner looks at themselves and decides, I cannot do it this way anymore, and makes a choice for himself or herself, the partner who wanted to stagnate can no longer quite stand it in the same way. Now, there's a high price for stagnating. They're going to lose that security. They're going to lose the safety. They're going to lose the comfort of that relationship. And that will likely, and it almost always does, make them want to grow. It is a fact that some of us are very complacent and will go along with life for a long time in autopilot, in sheeple mode. We'll just be whatever life's doing to us, flotsam and jetsam. But it never goes that way for long. Something will jar us out of it because life wants us to grow. Life wants us to learn something while we're here. It's the whole point. So it's going to jar us. And when it comes to relationships, that jar will be when the person who's growing can no longer stand, you're not growing. And then the person not growing is going to have to lose face losing that person or growing. So it's built into the fabric of the universe. Our desire to be in relationships is built on this fabric of growth. So why is this so important? Well, because all of us are somewhere on the spectrum of we are here to grow and become enlightened and just rocket ship through the levels of consciousness. And some of us are flotsam, jetsam, complacent, compliant, go with the flow, and not want to do that inner work. We can all be everywhere we are. Life allows all of it. But if you never thought about this and you're going along, then it's good for you to know that some point along the way, life is going to ask you for more. And if that should make you think, okay, what might happen? What am I not paying attention to? What continues to be an issue between me and my partner? I'm probably going to have to look at it. If I'm going into denial and avoidance, that won't last forever. So it's good for you to just be aware of that. And a beautiful thing is we have to do our inner work, but we don't have to do it faster than we're ready. We can do it really slowly. When I work with all kinds of clients, and with some, I have to go really slowly. They're really not ready for much. They're very fearful. And so I have to take it really slow, because if I don't, they will run away and it will do no good. That's the pace that they have to be on for now. And the only way they'll ever get to a faster pace is if someone is safe and loving and accepting of where they are then. It's the only way they could feel safer to grow. So that may be true of all of us in our primary relationship. One person might want to go faster. One person really isn't ready. But if you're the one who isn't ready, you need to look at, you're going to have to take steps, even if they're small. I want you to also know that when there's a gap in a relationship, one person really wants to grow and the other's a little bit, not really ready. It doesn't take a whole lot for that relationship to get better. It just takes the person who's a little slower to do one really decent look, one admission of, you're right. I do. I get scared. So then I just bury my head in distractions. That alone, one true, authentic, vulnerable statement will make that partner light up. Of course, they'll eventually hope for more of that, but in that moment, you just made it better. So it's not like you have to, massively wake yourself up. It's just that if you're really going complacent, know that it won't last for long. So you may as well inch into it now. Okay. Now, I'm going to give an example. I know a couple who've been married 40 years, and one of the partners just kind of has come into their own and has all these interests budding and these things they want to do and new friendships that are making them think about new things they weren't thinking before. They're blossoming. And as they're bringing that to their 40-year partner, the partner is just going, I'm not doing that. Nope, you go ahead. I'll stay home. They're not engaging in the same way. And they've been together 40 years. They have family. They have so many reasons to stay together. But this has become such an issue that at some point, the partner who's growing cannot take it anymore. And it came to that. That person cannot take it anymore and has to leave. After 40 years of complete denial, avoidance, and stagnation, once that separation happened, that partner woke up. He reached out. He said, I see it. I'm sorry. I will do the work now. And now they're working on getting back together. But it wasn't going to happen until his partner left. He was going to stagnate. He had decided to. But look at the beauty of a relationship. The relationship itself caused him not to, because he's going to lose something that's the most valuable thing in his life. This is how it constantly keeps us growing. So There are so many kinds of relationships, and I want to put this out there. Your relationship can be based on so many things. Not everybody's going to be the soulmate pair. We all hope for that and dream about that, but it's a pretty rare thing. There are those couples out there that really have that, and they work at it, but there are lots of kinds of relationships that work because they agree on things. For example, there are couples who are married, stay married because of money. Let's just talk about it. If you are one of those people, you're married because it's financially better than to leave, you can do that for a time. And if you go into denial about it and you start to hope and wish that it's more than that, but the marriage isn't really emotionally working, or the relationship isn't emotionally working, it is better for you to admit, I am in this for financial stability. Admitting it to yourself. See, the ground level of truth is always where we should live. Illusions are the only thing that hurt us. Illusions and hiding things from ourselves. The only things that hurt us are what's hidden. So if you admit to yourself, I am in this because I don't want to be, I don't want to have to afford to live in a tiny apartment. I like our nice house and I'm staying married for that reason. If you admit that, what's good about that is you don't expect that relationship to be more than it is. You keep it civil. You admit that that's what's happening, and you don't get frustrated every single day that that partner of yours isn't fulfilling you emotionally. By sitting on the ground level of admitting, I'm in this for the financial stability, you're going to find fulfillment in your other relationships, and you can still be happy. Now, likely in that kind of a situation, because it's sort of natural in us to want our relationships to thrive on all levels, likely one of you will tire of it at some point. But there's never any need to force it if, when you check in with yourself, where you are right now is that you get your emotional fulfillment elsewhere and your financial fulfillment from being together, and the other person seems okay with that too. There's no issue until there's an issue. So just be happy. Just fulfill yourself emotionally in all the ways that you do with the other parts of life, and then be happy that you come home to that nice house. And don't expect from your partner something they can't give you. You can live a whole life that way until you can't. And so when and if that day comes, you will know because you've been doing your inner work. Because everything is about inner work, which is, again, back to my point that our main job here is to do the inner work. Relationships help us to do it. So if you are in that situation and you're doing your inner work, you're just watching, am I still happy like this? Yep, today I am. Then be all the way happy. Because likely there'll be a change because we're always growing and you'll want more eventually. But if it's not today, then be fully fulfilled. Why is that important? Because you fulfilled will likely make your partner notice something. Like, what is it about her? Why is she happy? I'm not happy, which is going to make him grow or her grow. When we see each other in contrast, it makes us look at ourselves, which is, again, another reason relationships are good for us, because we're supposed to be looking at ourselves all the time, because this is our journey. And so when there's a gap and our partner's happier than we are, more fulfilled than we are, then we look and go, man, I need to do something. And that makes us grow. So, one last point on this. Relationships don't have to last forever. They don't all last forever. But when one is running out of its juice, there's a very important point. Maybe you're in that relationship right now. Maybe as I'm talking about it running out of juice, you're like, oh, that's me. I'm afraid it's running out of juice. There's no need to be afraid of it. I know it's uncomfortable, but I really want to hone in on this. There are so many people, at least 50% right now, probably more than that as I say that, they're like, am I the relationship that's running out of juice? If so, here's one thing to keep in mind. Well, it's maybe more than one thing. One is, you aren't in charge of the whole relationship working or not working. You are half of it, and that is all. Second, you want to make sure that you have done completely your part in making it work. Because if you don't, then you will take the work you didn't do to your next relationship and it'll be wonky. It will be difficult. It will be messy again. You'll think that you met someone more compatible, but since you didn't fully do your inner work in this other relationship, you're bringing that to the next one and it's still there. Your unhealed stuff, your guilt for what you didn't do, your awareness that you weren't honest, if that's the case, is going to take you to that one. And by the way, if anyone isn't honest, then they're not going to trust the person they're with because they know they can lie. So if you are in a relationship that you are afraid is losing momentum, you have one thing to do, and that is look inside, be impeccable, be more honest, admit things, speak your truth, and do what you can to make it better. It may or may not work, but you have to do your work before you go into another relationship, or all of that stuff will just follow you again into another one. It'll feel like this one's just more compatible. This one's just more like me. But if you didn't do you properly, the honeymoon period will end and you'll find yourself dealing with the same kinds of issues because you didn't look at them. So, for example, if somebody is dissatisfied in their relationship and they start flirting with other people or having an affair, anything like that, they can convince themselves it's just that this person is more compatible. Fine, they very well might be, but you have one job. Tell your partner what's happening, admit what's happening, and get vulnerable and say, I am having feelings for other people because we are stagnating and I don't know what to do, but I do know I have to tell you so I can be impeccable. If you don't do that work, the lack of impeccability will be with you, haunting you. You either won't trust your partner because you know that if you can lie, they could lie, and that will haunt you. It'll ruin the relationship. I'm trying to prove to you that every relationship is about your work. If you do that, you're looking at soulmate status. Because when you bring yourself to your partner, your weaknesses, the things you're afraid of about yourself that you want to grow out of, and you have a place to safely share that, and then they do too, and then you support each other to grow out of them, then you both keep growing in your individual ways. And the safety of being able to share that and then help each other strengthen is one of the most beautiful things on the planet. Also, when you're struggling and your partner isn't, that helps you see the contrast and makes you want to learn about what they have that you don't, so that you start growing again. And that contrast helps you grow. So you need the safety and you need the challenge. And if you do the inner work and bring that to your partner, you're going to be like climbing this pegboard. One goes and the next one like, oh yeah, I'm going too. And life keeps getting richer and better and more satisfying. Eventually in a relationship like that, because you've done that, you have something that you know is so sacred that even if you met another potential soulmate, because who knows how many people we're really compatible with out there. I know I've met people that I think, oh, that could be a path. But anyway, when you meet someone like that, they might be attractive. They might be fun to talk to. It might like give you this boost. Sure, that happens to us. But you will know in your knowingness that even if you did a detour and started over with that person, you would just be going through all the steps you've already gone through with this person who knows you better than anybody. And it's just going to end up where you already are. And if that other person does really pull at you, then that is showing you something in your relationship that needs work. So I know that can be hard to do, but that's where your attention should go. Because if someone else has the power to really pull you away, It means something in your relationship isn't working. And that's where your attention needs to go to see if it can be strengthened. And if it can't, that will reveal itself because you're not in charge of the other person. But if it can, that is your work to do first. That other person will be available when you've done all your work here and exhausted the possibility that this can strengthen. Okay. So I hope this has given you some clarity about the point of relationships. I hope it's given you some clarity about what to look at and what to do if yours is struggling. And the one inevitable truth that people are going to have a hard time sometimes facing that will never go away is it is an inner journey. And relationships help you do the inner journey. And if your focus is too much on your partner, you've lost the point and you're not going to get the growth out of this. Always has to do with healing and strengthening and loving and accepting and learning about you. And the partnership helps you grow into your next version of yourself and vice versa. I hope that's helpful. If this was meaningful to you, please give me a comment, ask me a question. I will fine-tune episodes for questions that you have. I love to interact with you. Better yet, if you're like, I want to do an overhaul on my relationship right now, reach out to me. I can fix relationships very quickly in my office with lightning speed results. So don't sit around and wait for the boulder to keep rolling downhill. Do the work now, see what it has left, see if it can be revived. And if not, we'll know it quickly. We'll know it soon. And you can both move on to your next best life. One thing's for sure, our lives are short. And if we keep going through the same old, we're not doing it right. It doesn't have to be that way. The repetition is there to show us we need to start growing. And that is what life is doing with us because it loves us. Embrace the inner work. Like my channel, share my channel, comment on my channel, ask me questions, like me on Instagram, reach out to me on an email, and let's make this world a better place starting with you.